Your relationship is the foundation for the emotional and relational health of your home. And if it gets skipped or neglected, everything breaks down. And passion, intimacy, and commitment are three foundational building blocks for ensuring that your home is sturdy and it's going to last for the long haul.
Absolutely.
Welcome to the Blended Family Coaching Show, where you'll discover how to move your step family from just surviving to truly thriving.
Grab your headphones and listen in as we share practical, real-life strategies for building healthy bonds,
Understanding the kids' perspective,
romance and partnership,
parenting with great teamwork.
and yes, even co-parenting with a difficult ex.
We're Mike and Kim Anderson, and we believe with the right tools, every step couple can overcome the common challenges of step family life.
Join us for authentic and sometimes comical conversations to discover how you can lead your family with confidence and create the future you really want.
Well, welcome to the second week of February 2021,
Hello.
month of love, right? With Valentine's Day right around the corner. Yes, if you didn't realize it, it's going to be here this coming weekend.
Yikes.
So those of you who are planners, you probably already have that figured out. But those who are not, just a little reminder, it's coming up. Don't wait till the last minute.
Yeah, get cheesy.
Yeah, that's right. Get cheesy. I love it. So we're talking about marriage for the whole month of February. And this week, we want to focus on what it takes to create and enjoy lifelong love. Author and psychologist Eric Fromm said, lifelong love does not happen by chance, but it's an art that must be learned, practiced, and honed. Marriage experts Les and Leslie Parrott add to that by saying every successful marriage is the result of two people working diligently and skillfully to cultivate their love. When they combine passion, intimacy, and commitment, they're able to grow a flourishing, healthy marriage. Man, I love that.
Yeah.
Passion, intimacy, and commitment. I mean, who doesn't want more of that,
Yeah.
right? But sometimes these things feel out of reach. The busyness of blended family life can steal away our energy and focus for each other. But letting all the stuff of blended family life rob us of building that passion, intimacy, and commitment, it's kind of like deciding to build a new house, but telling the contractor that you want to save some money by skipping the foundation. It's like saying, well, that patch of land looks sturdy enough. Just build the house on that. We all know that's not going to work when it comes to building our house, right? And the truth is, it won't work for you building your home either. Your relationship is the foundation for the emotional and relational health of your home. And if it gets skipped or neglected, everything breaks down. And passion, intimacy, and commitment are three foundational building blocks for ensuring that your home is sturdy and it's going to last for the long haul.
Absolutely.
Les and Leslie Parrott have a lot to say about this in the third chapter of their book titled Saving Your Second Marriage Before It Starts. And in it, they describe a model of love called the anatomy of love, developed by psychologist and researcher Robert Sternberg. And of course, we're going to add a link in the show notes if you want to grab a copy of the Parrott's book.
Okay, so let's talk about this anatomy of love. Picture a triangle. It has three sides, each representing a major element of love: passion, intimacy, and commitment. Let's start by talking about passion, which is the motivational side of the triangle. Now, passion is both sensual and sexual, and it's driven by desire and physical attraction. Now, this is something that often comes so easily to couples in the beginning of the relationship, right? We can't wait to be together. It almost feels physically painful when we're apart, even for a short time. And it's effortless to shower our new love with affection and tender physical gestures. And of course, there's no shortage of attraction and maybe even some sexual tension, right? The fun kind of tension.
That's right.
But sometimes all this excitement in the relationship is one of the first things to start waning. And it's simply unrealistic to expect that this level of attraction and passion will continue as the relationship matures. And this is when we might start to experience dissatisfaction or disconnection with our partner. when our passion dwindles and it seems that all we have left is the busyness of family life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, according to the parrots, love grows less exciting with time for the same reasons that the second run on the fast toboggan slide is less exciting than the first, right?
Yep.
But as any long-term, happily married couple can tell you, the excitement may decrease, but the real pleasure can still increase.
That's great.
So if that's true, then how do we increase this passion even as the years pass by? So we're going to talk about 3 strategies the parrots offer to help us cultivate more passion in our relationship.
That's right. One of the first strategies is practicing meaningful touch. Meaningful touch is the language of passion, and all the expert sex therapists will tell you that affection in the form of meaningful touch is not only a preliminary to making love, but it's a language that speaks more eloquently than words. Things like snuggling on the couch while you watch a movie, holding hands while you go shopping, giving each other a shoulder massage, or remembering to kiss each other goodbye and hello. These are just small gestures that keep us connected physically, even when we're too busy or exhausted for that lock the door, it's couple private time moment. We can still nurture passion even when we feel busy. Meaningful touch is really all about the continual small physical connection points that you make among all the dynamics that are trying to rob you of that focused time together. Now, in addition to meaningful touch, passion is increased when you plan mutually enjoyable experiences together. The point here is to regularly associate your spouse with positive experiences. The fact is that your passion will take a nosedive if your main association with your spouse are household chores, a long to-do list, disagreements around parenting, finances, and all the other stressors that come with blended family dynamics. The parrots say that passion can only survive and thrive if the couple continues to date even after they marry. You need to be intentional about creating those positive associations so that the business of family and all the stressors don't become your primary or sometimes only source of connection. You've got to nurture your romantic relationship in order for passion to keep growing.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about the importance of dating all the time in
That's
our podcast,
right.
and we encourage the couples that we coach to make dating a high priority. And we've heard every excuse around why this is not realistic or why couples just kind of allow date night to slide off their calendar and they sort of just give up on it. There's all kinds of reasons why that happens. And honestly, we personally know all about this because there was a time where we used lots of excuses too.
Just a few.
Yep. And we allowed dating to slide onto the back burner of busy blended family life. As a result, we experienced some painful consequences that almost ended our marriage.
Sure.
Now, one excuse we hear is, well, we just can't afford to hire a babysitter. You know, we get it. Finances are important. But if that's really true, then get creative. You know, enlist those extended family members to help out or do childcare swapping with friends. We've done that before.
That saved us a lot of time.
Yeah. Keep in mind that a divorce is way more expensive than babysitting services.
For sure.
Believe me. Now, another excuse we hear is, well, we just don't have time to date. But when we ask couples to tell us how they fell in love, they describe long dinners together and long walks and phone calls that lasted hours and lots of fun activities and adventures. Well, all of that takes time, right?
For sure.
So then we ask, in that early stage of your relationship, when you started dating and fell in love, did you have the same amount of kids that you have now?
Usually the answer is yes.
Did you have a similar career and similar responsibilities back then that you also have now? To which they almost always answer, well, yeah. Well, you might guess our next question is, so how did you have the time to do all of those things that created connection and led to you falling in love, but you don't have time to do those things now?
Yeah, it doesn't quite add up.
We've got to think about that. Because if you're using the we don't have time excuse around dating and investing in the passion of your marriage, then you might need to examine how you're arranging your priorities and what you're focused on.
Yeah, that's right.
It might be a good idea for you to let some things go so that you can open up intentional time to spend together. Or you might need to get really creative. One couple that we get to coach, they've been working on this by scheduling a weekly lunch date. They each arrange their busy work and home schedules, and they really guard this time. They protect it so that they can connect on a regular basis. It may not be perfect, but they're getting creative and they're working on it.
That's right. And the key here is diligence. You've got to work together to carve out time that you can spend nurturing your passion and keeping your romance alive and well. Because we all know that those initial flames of passion will eventually fade, and that's normal. But that doesn't mean it has to burn out. So no excuses around dating. Get diligent, get creative, and get it on the calendar. This can help to rekindle your passion and ultimately save your relationship.
Absolutely.
Now, one more strategy is really simple. Compliment your partner daily. This is really about helping your spouse to know that they're special to you. We all need to feel that our spouse is attracted to us and also that they appreciate us. So be intentional about showering your partner with compliments. Even little things can make a really big impact.
Yeah.
Thank them for the things that they do, whether it's driving kids to their activities or making dinner or giving you a much needed hug. Let them know that you notice their efforts and that you appreciate them. No one likes to feel like they're taken for granted. That will kill your passion. So to cultivate the passion in your relationship, make sure that your partner feels like they matter, knows that they're special, and that you notice and see all the beautiful, amazing, sexy, wonderful things about them.
Sure.
Those things that you fell in love with from the beginning. And be on the lookout for those things. And then verbally affirm them to your spouse on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to practice meaningful touch. We're going to plan mutually enjoyable experiences and compliment your partner daily so that your passion will grow. Now, you might pause this right now and just think about one thing you can do this week to engage in at least one of these 3 strategies. Write it down and commit to it. Then hit play again and we'll keep chatting. All right, let's talk about the second side of the anatomy of love triangle, which is intimacy. Now, you might be thinking that, well, isn't intimacy and passion, aren't those the same things? But it's not the case. Genuine intimacy is really about being known and understood. It fills our heart's deepest longings for closeness and acceptance and is based on friendship.
That's right. Now, like passion was the motivational side of the triangle, intimacy is the emotional side. As the years of our relationship roll by, we simply can't keep desiring our partner without really knowing them. Couples who are each other's best friend or soulmate enjoy a close connection. They openly share their dreams, their interests, fears, insecurities, and hopes. There's raw vulnerability in which they can directly communicate and be transparent, even around painful issues.
Yeah.
Both partners must be willing to take the emotional risks that allow intimacy to happen, but this isn't always easy, especially in a blended family marriage where we probably have some emotional wounds from the past, like we talked about in last week's episode. We're starting off from a place of loss and pain. In his book, Finding the Love of Your Life, Neil Clark Warren identifies lack of intimacy as the number one enemy of marriage. He goes on to say that without intimacy, a couple will be isolated and alone even while they're living under the same roof.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah. So what are some things that we can do to cultivate more intimacy in our relationship? We're so excited to let you know about something brand new we've created just for you.
We've realized that with so many episodes available here on the show, it might feel a bit overwhelming to find the topics that matter most to you. That's why we've created a simple tool for you to receive a personalized playlist focused on your current struggle or your biggest challenge.
That's right. It's called the Blended Family Breakthrough Quiz. You'll answer just a few questions, and based on your responses, we'll email you a curated custom playlist of episodes that are specific to you.
This simple quiz will direct you to the most impactful episodes that pertain to you personally and keep you on track in your journey of discovery, learning, and growth. So, scroll all the way to the bottom of the show notes for this episode and click the link to take the Blended Family Breakthrough Quiz today.
Okay, let's get back to the discussion.
Well, the parrot's first suggestion is pretty simple. Spend time together.
Hey, that's a novel idea.
Now, marriage expert David Mace says, love must be fed and nurtured. First and foremost, it demands time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we already talked about making time for dating a priority in your marriage, but what you actually do with that time is important if you want to create more intimacy. Now, one thing that's really helped us over the years has been to be intentional around what we actually talk about when we go out on date night, right? Because the goal is to make a heart-to-heart connection with each other, to get emotionally vulnerable. And that's probably not going to happen if you spend your whole evening strategizing around parenting problems or complaining about the stress the ex has created in your home.
Nothing like taking the ex along on the date, right?
Or things like, oh, when do the gutters need to be cleaned or what bills need to be paid? It's just, if there are pressing family business issues that you just have to get off your chest before you can relax, then go ahead, but set a timer for like a half hour or whatever you think is needed and agree that when the time is up, you're going to take off your family business hats and transition into conversation that creates that heart-to-heart connection and might just deepen your intimacy. That's the goal, right? With spending time. Now, you might be thinking, well, it feels like we don't have much to talk about outside all of that family business stuff. And we've been there.
Oh, man, have we?
Yeah. We've had several seasons when our relationship was frayed and we felt really disconnected.
That's right.
But we still did date night. And we actually used a book of conversation starters to get us connecting on a different level rather than spending the whole night in conflict or discussing issues.
That's right.
And, don't get us wrong here. You need to talk about issues in family business, obviously, but save that for another time.
Mm-hmm.
Really important. Now, in last week's episode, we shared an idea that we came across called a spark jar.
Yeah, a spark jar.
It's a simple idea to help you come up with creative ways to really connect on a regular basis. Now, we're going to go ahead and link to that idea on the iMom website in the show notes. But we kind of threw out the challenge of simply reading about the spark jar. And we said that we're going to move forward with this idea. We like it.
Sure.
And we're hoping that you'll decide to try it as well. So last week, we actually moved forward and we focused on cultivating more intimacy by spending time together.
Mm-hmm.
We used the spark jar idea. We went through a brainstorming process to create it, which was actually really fun. And it didn't take that much time either. And of course, we had to get really creative because of COVID restrictions and the fact that it's the middle of winter here and it's pretty cold and wet outside.
Pretty much all the time. Yeah.
So we came up with a bunch of great ideas. And then one night, we had a few hours to connect, and we chose what they call a big spark, which is intended for extended time together. And you'll have to check out that whole concept on the iMom website to really get what that means. But anyway, the spark that we randomly picked was to shop for a gift for each other with a $10 limit, then pick up a meal to eat in the car. We really enjoyed the randomness of this. Whatever we picked from the jar, we were committed to doing together.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, we ended up walking around Hobby Lobby and choosing fun and meaningful gifts for each other.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it was really fun. Then we picked up some food from a Cajun restaurant that we hadn't been to in years, which was awesome. We ate jambalaya, cornbread, and shrimp and grits.
Oh, it was so good.
We ate it in our car, of course, which was parked in a romantic spot near the harbor that overlooked the hotel that we actually stayed in on our wedding night. So
fun.
It was fun, kind of sparked some memories. It was just a great time of connection, and it was a lot of fun.
It really was, yeah.
So we'll continue to report how the spark jar is working for us. And so far, so good. Mm-hmm. And we challenge you to try it as well. And then share with us what your experience has been.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we'd love to know if it creates more intimacy. The point is, what we really want to do when we're spending time together is to make sure that it's quality time. And that leads us to the parrot's next strategy around cultivating more intimacy, which is...
listen with a third ear.
Ooh.
Wow, that sounds weird, huh?
Yeah.
It's like we're growing a third ear or something. Studies on intimate sharing indicate that not really listening is the most fundamental error couples make. When we're distracted or we aren't emotionally and mentally present, our spouse knows it and can feel unheard and invalidated. Most of us have a tendency to interrupt our spouses or be impatient while they're sharing with us. But intimacy is cultivated when we patiently listen, not only to the story, but also to the feelings that our spouse is actually conveying. That's that third ear. Listen to their heart and then respond to it. You might know your spouse really well, but there's always more to learn. As human beings, we're always changing and growing. And if we hold on to a false belief that we already know everything that there is to know about them, we're probably going to miss out on truly understanding them and growing our intimacy. So you've got to stay curious, ask questions, and don't make assumptions. Even if you've been married for many years, there's valuable insights and treasures yet to be discovered if you're willing to patiently listen with that third ear. Okay, you might be thinking, this sounds like a nebulous kind of psychobabbly thing. Okay, I get it. Here's a really practical and simple way to do this. The next time your spouse starts sharing something with you about their day, about a challenge they're facing, whatever it is, make a deal with yourself that you're going to ask at least one question before you make any statements. And make the question one that would come from true curiosity. Not something like, well, why'd you do that? Like, that doesn't count. Right? Or worse yet, well, why don't you just do this? Right? Then you're telling them what to do, right? That doesn't count as a question. Make it something more like, what was happening inside of you when that happened? Or what did you do after all of that happened? Something that actually communicates, hey, I'm listening and I'm present. This can be a big step to experiencing more intimacy.
Absolutely. And another way to increase intimacy is to practice unconditional acceptance. Deep intimacy creates a safe place where each partner is safe to be their true selves without fear of rejection or criticism.
Yeah.
The deepest kind of sharing can only take place when there's no fear of rejection. So learn to love and accept your partner for who they are unconditionally. You know, if you're walking around on eggshells whenever you're around each other, that's an indication there's a problem with unconditional acceptance because you don't feel free to be yourselves. And nothing drains a relationship of intimacy faster than anxiety. Now, on the flip side, nothing promotes intimacy more than knowing you are unconditionally accepted, even though you aren't perfect. None of us are.
Next, the parrots encourage couples to focus on commonalities. Intimacy grows when nurtured by shared emotions, experiences, and beliefs. Now, most every couple can quickly list all their differences.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love avocados and I hate beets.
Oh, I hate avocados. I love beets.
I don't enjoy Star Wars. Those movies put me to sleep.
I really enjoy Star Wars and kind of get excited every time a new one comes out, although that's over now, supposedly.
My favorite exercise is swimming, and my least favorite is biking.
You can't catch me in a public pool, and I love to bike. But you know what? In spite of our differences, and really there are many more than just that, we choose to appreciate and enjoy our commonalities. We love to travel and explore new places together. We have fun kayaking together. We both like to eat a lot of Thai food.
Yeah, we do.
And we both enjoy music from the 80s, right? I mean, who doesn't?
Right.
The more couples focus on what they have in common, the deeper intimacy can grow. So think about how you might focus on your commonalities. Now, one more strategy around cultivating intimacy is to explore spiritual terrain together. You know, according to the parrots, a lack of intimacy can often be traced to a lack of spiritual vitality. In fact, one study showed that spirituality ranked among the 6 most common characteristics of strong couples. The top 6. That's amazing. And this one has positively impacted our intimacy as we've grown in our faith. We've pursued God together in our own marriage and in our family. Okay, so we've explored ways that can all cultivate more intimacy by spending quality time together, listening with that third ear, practicing unconditional acceptance, focusing on commonalities, and exploring spiritual terrain together.
Yeah, great ideas. All right, so let's move on to the final side of the triangle, and that's commitment, which is the cognitive side of the triangle.
We got to think about this one.
Yes. I love what the parrots say about commitment, that it creates a small island of certainty in the swirling waters of uncertainty. As the mooring of marriage, commitment secures love for our partner when passion burns low and when turbulent waters and fierce impulses overtake us. Commitment is the anchor for our relationship. It really is. Remember in last week's episode, we quoted Ron Deal, who says that the blended family couple swims in a different ocean than the first family couple. The water is cooler and murky. There are more sharks, those external threats of significant loss and difficult emotions that are always under the surface, creating internal tension. Without the anchor of commitment, we don't have a chance. We'll drift about, getting battered around by all the external and internal forces that tend to pull us apart little by little.
So what does it take to cultivate commitment?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked.
I'm sure you are.
Well, the first strategy is to assess the high value of commitment. According to the Parrots, a study of 6,000 marriages and 3,000 divorces concluded this. There may be nothing more important in a marriage than a determination that it shall persist. With such a determination, individuals force themselves to adjust and to accept situations which would seem sufficient grounds for breakup if continuation of the marriage were not the prime objective. They go on to conclude that commitment is the mortar that holds the stones of marriage in place.
That's right.
I love that. You know, sometimes when things get tough and the tidal waves hit, we tend to give up and we want to throw in the towel too early because our commitment starts to wane. And this was almost our story. We were right on the verge of giving up.
That's right.
But thankfully, our commitment to each other and to our family drove our determination to keep moving forward. Even though we didn't like each other very much and we were both unhappy and experiencing a lot of pain. In that season, we each figured out how to dig deep and resolve that we were going to do what it takes to repair our relationship and stay committed to the process even when it was really hard. And if we hadn't done that, we would have missed out on many years of happiness and enjoyment in our marriage on the other side. Not only that, our kids would have experienced the pain of being caught in the middle of our divorce.
That's right.
So take some time to think about your commitment level and what will you do as an individual to ratchet up and place a high value on commitment.
That's right. And the next strategy is to simply meet your partner's needs. As human beings, we all have a fundamental need for security, and one of the best ways to give people security is by meeting as many of their day-to-day needs as you can. Meeting even the smallest of needs can cultivate the security of commitment. And if you're interested in understanding a bit more about how to go about this practically, meeting your partner's needs, doing it in a healthy way, and kind of from the differences between the common needs of men and the common needs of women, we'd recommend a book called His Needs, Her Needs by Willard Harley Jr. This is a book that we read years ago, and it really helped each of us to understand what each other needed more.
Yeah.
And we kind of broke free from that self-centered focus to focus really on loving each other in a sacrificial but healthy sacrificial way.
Also, to cultivate commitment, the Parrots suggest that you honor your partner's promise. Sometimes, especially when we're struggling through a tough season, it's common for us to become hyper-focused on our commitment and all the sacrifices we're making for the marriage. And sometimes we lose sight or we overlook how our spouse has shown their commitment and the sacrifices they've made as well. So honoring and appreciating our spouse's promise and commitment to us is a good way to cultivate more commitment as a couple.
Yeah, and one more thought about commitment. You can make commitment part of your being. The parrots say, as human beings, we create and define ourselves through commitments. And those commitments become an integral part of our identity. When we contradict our commitments, we lose ourselves and suffer a bit of an identity crisis. You can strengthen your commitment to your partner by choosing to make it a vital part of your being, by giving it a top priority, so much so that to break it is to break who you are. They go on to say, while the romantic rush of feelings will eventually fade, another kind of love, anchored in commitment, will take its place and bring stabilizing peace to your marriage.
And, this all sounds great. But within the context of blended family marriage, fully committing can get emotionally confusing sometimes.
That's right.
This whole thing around commitment can be greatly influenced by the feelings of loss that might still be present from the beginning and tends to be just under the surface of the blending relationships. All of those confusing dynamics create fear for a lot of us. There's a large study conducted by step-family expert Ron Deal, and they found that fear of another breakup or divorce predicted with 93% accuracy whether blended family couples had a strong, vibrant marriage or a poor, unstable one. He states that fear cascades negativity on the relationship and leads spouses to be guarded and cautious with their heart. The root cause is pain from the past, and its impact is the fear of more pain. The potential outcome here? To avoid being hurt again, spouses do not love sacrificially or with their whole heart. This fosters insecurity within the marriage. Just below the surface in nearly every blended family relationship is a hidden question. And here it is. Do you really love me, and can I trust you?
Wow, that's really insightful. And fear will not only affect our ability to commit and trust, but also our willingness to be open to deep intimacy and vulnerability in our marriage. It will impact at least two sides of that anatomy of love triangle. And we've had to personally face our fears. We know that fear is a really tough one to face and to move beyond. Here's what Ron has to say. The antidote is not to withhold your love until the other person can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that they love you as much as you hope they do. The antidote is for you to love them with your whole heart, no matter the risk involved. It's only then that you will destroy any residual fear or apprehension that you've stored up in your heart and make it more likely that the other person will actually move toward you in love as well. Facing and conquering fear is a huge issue. It's one that we probably need to do a whole episode on in the future because fear will make it difficult to cultivate and balance passion, intimacy, and commitment. We don't have time to really dig into that today, but you might consider taking a little time to examine how fear could be impacting your relationship.
All right, so we've looked at the anatomy of love, that triangle that consists of passion, intimacy, and commitment. Now the goal is to cultivate all three sides of the triangle. But what happens when one side gets out of balance? We need to talk about that.
Yeah, that's an important piece of this.
So let's just briefly touch on that. And if you want to explore a bit further, you might consider grabbing a copy of the Parrot's book. So what we want you to do is picture a triangle with three equal sides representing passion, intimacy, and commitment. Often the triangle can change depending on the varying degrees of passion, intimacy, and commitment in the relationship. A triangle with three equal sides represents what Sternberg calls a consummate love. in which all three components are equally matched. And this is the ideal and what we want to strive for. But let's talk about what happens when the triangle gets out of balance.
Yeah, there's a few ways it can do that. One of them is when there's an equal combination of just passion and intimacy, but commitment kind of takes a back seat. The result of that is what's called romantic love, which might sound really good, but it relies only on the physical attraction mixed with a deep sense of caring. Then when challenges hit, the lasting component of commitment is missing, and that can really wreak havoc on our marriage.
Yeah. When there's an equal combination of passion and commitment, but intimacy is lacking, this is what he calls a foolish love. And it's foolish in the sense that a commitment is made on the basis of passion without the stabilizing element of intimate knowledge.
Yeah, really understanding each other. Yeah. Now, companionable love evolves from a combination of intimacy and commitment with passion fading to the background. It's essentially a long-term committed friendship. The potential to just become roommates is kind of a danger zone here. So that's romantic, foolish, and companionable love. And that happens when our triangle is kind of lopsided. It's unbalanced. The three sides are unequal. What we really want is consummate love. Yeah. Tell us about that.
Well, consummate love results from the full combination of love's three components. When the triangle has an equal combination of passion, intimacy, and commitment, that's the goal. But maintaining consummate love is where many marriages tend to struggle. Reaching the goal is often easier than maintaining it for the long run.
Yeah. Now, we've thrown an awful lot at you today. There's a lot of things to process and really think through. And maybe just for today, a practical next step that you can take toward achieving that goal of reaching consummate love is to simply evaluate where you're at with each of these three important aspects of marriage. Where's your passion level? What's going on with your intimacy? Are you really knowing and understanding each other? And where's your commitment? And if it seems like you might be out of balance and lacking a bit in one of these areas, then choose just one of the strategies that we talked about to cultivate and grow that specific aspect of your relationship. Start out simple and do your best to stay consistent. This will help you reach and maintain the goal of consummate love in your marriage.
The reality is that in the challenging blended family ocean we're all swimming in, you will be slammed by a tidal wave now and then.
That's right.
Things are going to change, and sometimes it's messy and uncomfortable and really painful. When things get hard, it might feel like you've fallen out of love or lost that deep connection you once had as a couple. But you don't have to stay there. You can choose to intentionally cultivate more passion, intimacy, and commitment and break free from the undertow. And we're here to help you.
That's right. If you're feeling really stuck right now, maybe you're feeling hopeless and you need some fresh inspiration and encouragement, go back and listen to episodes 51 through 53 about overcoming discouragement. And we'll put a link in the show notes for just that first part of the 3-part series. And of course, we're here to support you along the way. Yeah. If you're feeling like you need some extra support, we'd love to connect and talk about what that might look like. You can schedule your free coaching session with us, and we've made it really simple for you to just click on the link in the show notes and schedule it right on our calendar. We'd really love to connect with you.
Absolutely. All right, so you don't want to miss next week. We'll be looking at the 4 conflict communication styles that hurt relationships from Dr. John Gottman.
That's right.
He calls them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse because these 4 things, they actually give an accurate indication of marriages that are headed for disaster.
That's right, yeah.
A lot of research here. So kind of the opposite of what we explored today, which was what we want to cultivate more of in our marriage. Next week, we'll uncover what we want to decrease and avoid when we run into those tidal waves of conflict. And we'll explore how we can protect our relationship from these toxic behaviors that are so detrimental to marriage. So you don't want to miss that.
That's right. Well, spend this week, though, cultivating more passion, intimacy, and commitment.
Yes.
And that's going to make this episode a wrap.
Until next time.